we're in a mess. But we're not in a mess because of you. We're not in a mess because of the union. We're not in a mess because of people like Pete. We're in a mess because we got fooled. The society got fooled. And think about this. 25 years ago, we started to slowly deregulate the financial community. Think of how much we've deregulated them. Think of how many times you've heard of so-called bubbles, asset crashes. I couldn't begin to remember them all. The savings and loan, or by the way, the Bush brothers did quite well. Think of the Asian collapse, where we were told, I can remember a secretary-treasurer, asset managers would come to see me and say, you ought to get some of your pension money and put it in these Asian tigers. I said, oh yeah, we'll put money in Asia. Why the heck aren't we putting the money into our plants here? Then when the Asian economy collapsed, you didn't know if you were trading apples and bananas. People took it on the chin. Then we deregulated the auditing ability so that you had KPMG auditing Enron, and they were both feeding each other's nest. And then we had all those collapses. We had the energy collapse. And we lost pensions, and we lost pensions, and we lost pensions. I told somebody who interviewed me today, deregulating the financial markets is the economic equivalent of leaving a 3-year-old alone in a candy store without adult supervision and saying, don't eat too much. You know, when you come back 2 or 3 hours later, that kid will have gorged himself or herself. On the way home, they'll start choking and burping, and then they'll throw up on your shoes. I'm goddamn fed up of Wall Street throwing up on my shoes.
Yeah.
You need to be in that fight. You need to be saying, you don't need to say it to Pete, but Pete needs to be able to go back and say, in my district, this is what people are saying. We need to re-regulate these guys, not resuscitate them. Think about where we are now, trying to find money for jobs, trying to find money for health care. And these bastards just lined their pockets. They took the money from us, put themselves back in the driver's seat. Then some of them paid the money back, because without paying the money back, they couldn't pay themselves the bonus they want. And they paid out $33 billion in bonuses to 9 bankers, the executives of 9 banks. You pissed off? I'm pissed off. Yeah. We've got to do something about that. Then you go to what they've done about trade. What they've done is try to tell us that we should have free trade. Let me tell you this straight up and clear. There is no such thing as free trade. All trade is regulated. And you ask yourself on whose behalf is it regulated. The same people who told us to deregulate the banks are the ones that have been promoting free trade. America now has a $6.5 trillion accumulated trade debt. $6.5 trillion. You don't hear these bastards talking about the trade debt. They'll talk about the deficit. As President Obama said, he found that deficit on his desk when he got to the job wrapped in a bow. You know, he didn't cause it, he inherited it. Last year was a good year, the economists will say. But last year we only had a $700 billion trade debt. But the reason we had a $700 billion trade debt is the economy went flat for the last 4 months. On average, the last 5 years, we've been averaging almost $800 trillion of trade debt. Billion, sorry. And the question I ask all these economists, if you don't change direction, what will you do if we keep growing the trade debt at the same percentage? What will you do when the trade debt hits $1 trillion a year? You tell me. Not one of them has an answer. You know what they say? Good question. I'll tell you what you ought to do. You ought to head for the goddamn hills. That's what you ought to do. You got us in this mess. Manufacturing, as a percentage of gross domestic product, this is us. We're a manufacturing unit. We make things. We create real wealth. We take raw material, we make it into something. Then that something gets made into something else, and that something else gets made into a car, or a house, or a stereo, or it makes into something. We make real wealth. We don't manipulate bonds and stocks and create things that don't exist, pretend they do. Manufacturing as a percentage of gross domestic product. Remember this. When you wonder where the jobs are. Historically was about 22 to 24% of gross domestic product. In the last 20 years, accelerated since NAFTA. on a fast track since China is down to 9% of gross domestic product. There's a trade deficit. This affects us, you. There's a trade deficit with Japan and South Korea in just two things. There's a lot of other trade, I just focus on two. In autos and auto parts. Those two countries, the accumulated from those two countries trade deficit on just those two products is $42 billion. 85% of the money that's been spent on renewable energy has gone offshore. And you'll hear people saying that we need to have a new energy strategy so we don't have to rely on foreign oil. I believe that. I think that's good. But what's the difference between relying on foreign oil and relying on foreign turbines and solar panels? None. Except we're going to lose more jobs. So the values of this union, the values of 1010, are the values you need to have right now. Because right now we're on the cusp of determining what the future of this country is going to be. We're on the cusp of determining if we're going to have real jobs for our kids and our grandkids. Because if we don't grow manufacturing back on the same kind of trend lines, so that by the time you retire and are sitting in a rocking chair on the porch with your grandkids, that manufacturing's back up to 20 or 22 or 23 or 24%. Those are the kind of struggles that we got to have. This local has always been at the forefront of any struggle we've had, whether it was collective bargaining, whether it was civil rights, whether it was not forgetting where you came from. As I said a minute ago, we're at the cusp of making the decision about what kind of future this is going to be. If we can get decent healthcare reform that lowers costs, that will be good. If we can get a price on carbon, trying to help heal the planet, but make absolutely sure that our energy-intensive industries are going to get the support so it doesn't cost them at the expense of others, at the expense of our job. If we win the fight in this round of the Congress, to finally have the Congress stand up for manufacturing strategy, if we win the fight to make sure that we're going to have resources to fund the renewal of our manufacturing. If we're going to win the fight to enforce our trade laws and to strengthen our trade laws, we will succeed. We're in the fight again. And we're going to win that fight because we just don't accept to lose. We're going to fight till we win. And this union's proud history, this local union's proud history, is going to be the cornerstone of that fight. So let me close by saying, your values of solidarity, bringing together everyone, regardless of race, regardless of ethnic background, regardless of gender, regardless of your religious views, everybody coming together for a common purpose. That's what we need now. And we need it so that when we have the fight to rebuild manufacturing, it will rebuild our steel industry. I always say when I'm in Washington, you can't make anything in this country if you don't have steel. You can't make any. You can't make a computer. You can't make a chair. You got to have nails. You got to have bolts. You got to have all that stuff. There's nothing you can do if you don't have the steel industry. But also, the stronger the manufacturing sector is, the stronger the steel will be. The stronger the steel sector will be, the stronger our